The following session is a psychic reading conducted by Mrs. Irva Peterson with the sensitive Ross Peterson at Laughing Gull Point, Garden, Michigan. Please clear the mind and inform us when the mind is clear.
The mind is clear.
Dear Lord, please protect this entity from all negative influences, regardless of source, and give us the answers we seek of this inquiring mind through the manifestation of truth, intelligence, and love. Amen. Would you please allow your mind to go to whom, to where, to what, and to when it is directed? The questions we have all basically pertain to dreams and visions and are designed to be available to the general public in aiding the greatest number of people toward the furthering of their soul development. Please adapt your answers to the fulfillment of this objective and phrase your answers to the comprehension level of the layman rather than to the specialist.
What is dreaming?
Dreaming is that of the language of the soul, that of the language of the soul, which knows all dimension, converses, communicates the transference, as you would know it, of mental images or pictures. Now, best to understand verbalization, or that of the auditory senses, are known in this dimension and in this dimension only. An example of how man uses both man's language, which is the voice, and that of the language of the soul, could be demonstrated in the art of human persuasion in this example. Suppose there would be that one who would be as a representative of goods, either that of material or that of the imagination, either that is intangible or tangible. And these goods were not in the presence of this representative, a salesman, you might say. However, this salesman is attempting to convey the idea of his service or goods or combinations to another, or that you would call the recipient, the customer. This salesman uses man's language, the voice and language as ye know language, that of the spoken tongue. But in essence, what is this entity attempting to do? This entity has in his mind a picture of his product or service and is attempting to convey this exact same picture to the mind of another in hopes that that of the customer will partake of the goods or services that are offered. But it is through the voice describing the mental image in the mind of one, hoping that the mental image will be formed in exactly the same fashion in the mind of the other. Now, in this dimension, as of to the earthly dimension, there is much confusion. For what is assumed to be in the mind of one and assumed that is received by the mind of other is often mistaken. However, in that of the language of the soul, which is these mental pictures and the transference of one record to another, one mind to another, the language of the soul is spoken. Not in the spoken word, but in the transference of mental images. This is that is known as dreaming. Now, man thinks of dreaming only when it enters the state of natural sleep, and this is when it is most profound. However, if man were only to question itself and to slow down the aspects of satisfying itself, then man would discover that it is in a constant dream state. It is simply when that of the conscious mind is laid aside, when the entity enters the state of natural sleep, that there is greater awareness of the dream state or the language of the soul. Nonetheless, it is constant. See?
Why do we dream?
This is how ye touch upon that of spirit. This is how communication takes place between the great I am and the small I am, and with others, and of self. However, the natural function of that of the dream, when the entity does enter the state of natural sleep, is that as conscious mind is laid aside, those first dreams experienced in that of the evening are generally reviewing that has been lived during the day, or reviewing that, of course, that is of the most concern to the entity at that particular time. Now, the dream will always contain what the entity is concerned about, for in it, many times cloaked in symbology or an emblematical form, is the solution to the problem that the entity shows the greatest concern over. And as such, if any would study the language of their soul and act upon these solutions, then they would find that the waking hours were much more pleasant and filled with opportunity and contentment for that entity, if it would but act and react in the fashion that is indicate the pattern that is laid out in that of the dream. The dream has many functions, of course. The dream is also the regulating device that enables the body, the physical body, to continue to function in a normal fashion. The dream is when there is the allowance of the entity to leave the physical body and enter other dimensions, other realms, for further communication, further inspiration, further information. The dream is also that of a foreteller of that would be, for nothing important has ever happened to any entity but what it has not dreamt of it beforehand, sometimes hundreds of times, sometimes years in advance. But for those that would listen, for those that would see with their mind through the language of the soul, the dream contains all the answers. If ye would but enter the Holy of Holies in that ye call meditation, know that each night when ye would dream, this is also entering that of the state of meditation. There is no mystery to that of the art of meditation, except those that would confuse themselves with the complexities of that is the natural birthright of any entity, that of the natural dream. The dream will tell ye all the things that ye seek in life at that time. The dream will show ye the path to that of the Godhead. The dream will indicate to thee how ye may trod the path to return to that from whence ye have cometh, the Godhead. All of these promises are answered within that of the dream. See?
What's the difference between a dream and a vision?
Generally, the time of day. For generally, visions are seen during what man considers waking hours, and dreams are seen during what man considers sleeping or natural sleep state hours. Nonetheless, in essence, both are one and the same. Both are a picture of the mind. See?
What is the best method of learning the language of our dreams and visions?
First of all, the recording of that of the same would be the logical step to undertake. Then understand that as you begin to record thy dreams, there will be a pattern that will unfold. This pattern contains the keys to the solutions to the problems that ye seek. Now, again, what would ye dream over? What are ye interested in? For understand, though, of course, what ye are interested in is always given to thee in the form of a dream. But understand that this would be only thy first interest. For ultimately, thy purpose, thy prime interest is order to further, to enhance the advancement of that of the soul closer to that of the Godhead. Therefore, eventually in all dreams, or in some portions of the dreams, there is that would be given as spiritual guidance. Now this, of course, would deal with that is a shadow of the soul, or that of personality. But this is the manner in which the dream would be given for each. And the best way to begin to learn it is to understand that there are aspects that will unfold in patterns, and it matters little whether thy education is large or limited. It matters little of thy cultural background. It matters little of the color of thy skin, or one of the 5 races that ye belong to. For there will be aspects in the study of thy dream that will be more or less universal for all. Now, of course, if you are deeply concerned over the lack or scarcity of food, then thy dream holds promises of food. If you are concerned over the lack of money, thy dreams hold ye promises of money. If you are concerned over the lack of companionship, thy dreams hold ye promise of companionship. Whatever is thy concern, whatever it is ye choose to be concerned about, is what thy first dreams in the evening will indicate to thee an answer. As ye progress farther and farther into the twilight hours and enter the closeness of the waking hours, then this is that portion of the day when you will be most likely to have that of a spiritual dream. In that of the center are those that would deal with the personality. The spiritual dream might be those that would be termed the pure psychic dream, when there is communication between all other levels. The entity awakens with a feeling of reverie. Now, if ye would deal with the secondmost aspect of thy dreams, which is personality, then the universality will be indicated in somewhat these fashions. As ye are going through life, thy dream will indicate modes of going through life. This would most usually pertain to transportation. This might be a cart with a yak. It might be the camel. It might be a ship that would fly through the air. But all of these are indicating a path going through life, a road to follow, whether it be a trodden footpath or would hold a train that is streamlined. These indicate way through life, and the pattern will show how ye are going through life. Ye might dream that ye are burrowing through the ground as a mole. And if ye are, then ye could reasonably assume that ye are blinded to all other things above thee. This is only a small example. But there will be this universal concept among all peoples, regardless of background, regardless of religion, race, color, creed, you see. There are many that would think of that of the physical form, and the fact that it is either ill or well. And if there be an illness existed within the physical form, you must understand that is given in the good books speak of the temple. Now, most would think of this as a cathedral, the church, or the synagogue. But this is not the temple that is referred to in that of the good books, for the temple is thy fleshly body, the house for thy soul, the dwelling place for thy soul. In most cases, if you're not overly concerned about buying or selling a house, of course, then if you would have a dream that would show dwellings, most often it would pertain to some aspect of the physical body. Now, if you were concerned with an aspect of ill health in thy dream, and this is thy prime concern, then when you dream of the house, Make sure ye inspect the house carefully in thy dream, for in it will be the answer to the solution to eliminate the distress that is felt within that of the physical form. Also, in aspects of consciousness, if ye are aware of the mind that is the builder, the master, and is the link to the creative forces, oft times, if it is thy concern to develop the mind, then these dwellings could, in a large degree, pertain to levels of consciousness, levels of awareness, levels of development, you see. There are many other aspects that ye might consider. Ye will find almost always that whether it be a nomad that lives in the middle of the desert, or that of a fisherman upon the stormy seas, there will be dreams of water. And water is of life, is of spirit itself. For the fleshly bodies that are existent upon this globe, this spot in the dimensions of God, all did at one time evolve from water. Now, this is not to say that the soul evolved from the water, but all forms of life as ye know it did evolve from water. Water is the essence of life itself, and thy dream will pertain to life, or to spirit, you see. Many would dream in some areas of the world of fishes, and this would be as of spiritual food. That is, unless you're very fat and you need to eat fish to lose bodily weight. Use a little common sense in the interpretation of these. First, again, what is thy concern? Understand that some who had never seen a fish would not dream of fish, but they might dream of the leaven or the unleavened bread, or a hoe cake, for to them this would be spiritual food. For in many cases, food in dreams pertain to food for the soul. Again, if this is the dream of a glutton, do you think it would pertain to the soul, or to the act of gluttony? Or probably to the act of gluttony. There are other aspects to be considered that are almost universal in nature. What is thy adornment? How would ye garb thyself? For ye will find that the manner in which ye garb thyself is usually the manner in which ye would wish to appear to others. Would ye dress as a peacock or a beggar? For this is as ye would wish to appear to others. There are many dreams where the entity finds itself naked. Simple definition, fear of exposure. Would ye often dream of that of animals? For if ye would do so, the manner in which ye as an individual regard that animal is simply an indication that this is an aspect of thy personality, the shadow of thy soul. Would ye dream of the cow contentedly chewing their cud? For if ye do so, perhaps thy problem would be indolence. But would you see that of the raging dog ready to snap and bite all? Then perhaps you're having a tendency to be a little too irritated and being short and caustic with thy tongue and snapping and biting of others, you see. Would you be the lazy lion? But in defining these things, do not ask how another would feel over these animals, but ask thyself, how do I feel? For you see, some could regard animals as game, and others could regard them as simply cowardly and fleeting. See, this is a personal thing. There are other aspects that could be considered. What of the people that you would dream of in thy dreams? Know that in most cases, those that ye dream of are extensions of thyself, and the manner in which ye feel or think about or towards these individuals is in actuality the manner in which ye live thy life. And man is a great one to deceive himself into believing that he is more than he is, or less than he is. Would ye dream of small things? Perhaps then ye would dream of that of the insects. In not all cases, but in many cases, the aspects of birds, especially those that are dark in color, are a foretelling of that could be the physical demise or death of another, or as of thee. For ye would dream of frogs raining from heaven, then ye dream of unclean things. If ye would be shown thy gifts, and ye would look for the gifts that are thine from that of God, then this will be shown to thee, usually in the form of birth. Now this might be as two eggs hidden under a leaf. Or it might be the picture of a row of pregnant animals or females, or pregnancy within thyself. There are aspects of death in the dream. Some of these are literal and foretell that is to be. But some are what ye might call gentle praise to thyself, of that ye have killed, or old things within thee have died, and there is a new birth forthcoming. These are aspects to be considered. There are those dreams that are purely physical in nature. For the biological clock of each entity in that of the flesh ticks, and every so often the alarm rings. And when it does, this entity would seek out the companionship of one of the opposite sex, usually for the gratification of this desire to share through physical congress. There are those aspects that are the mare that is ridden through the night, for the nightmares are usually caused, although not always, by the act of gluttony. For the body must work very hard, you know, to digest the foods that are taken into it. If people only realized how hard they worked to eat what they experience in moments of pleasure through that of taste, then chances are they wouldn't eat so much. But usually that of the mare that would ride through the night is simply caused by an entity that has too flexible an elbow and would fill his gut to the brimming. See?
Does having an adequate amount of sleep, such as 7 or 8 hours per night, have any significance on our ability to remember our dreams?
Understand that, as we have said before, all are in a constant dream state. Now, if the entity is deprived of physical sleep, and a certain amount of rest and sleep is necessary for all, then that entity will begin to experience what man calls hallucination, another word for vision. But those that would deprive themselves of entering that of the state of natural sleep experience many hallucinations. This would also be true of those that would heavily drug the body with that of alcohol or other forms of drugs. For when these are in the body, it causes the psyche to separate from itself, and the entity is in a dream state while it appears to be in that of the conscious state. And when entering the state of natural sleep, would enter the deepest levels of sleep and not experience that of the dream. But the dream will be experienced in one fashion or another. And if you would find those that would deprive themselves of natural rest, and know ye all must rest, for even that of the Master of Jesus, often tired of the flesh, and would seek the comfort of the log, or the shade of the glen, or the whisper of the brook, to rest the weary bones, then all must understand that if he as the Master did require this rest, then they should give themselves the same privilege. For if they do not, then they will be thought of as odd, weird, crazy, demented, and that's actually what they will become. There are many aspects of sanity or insanity, but many, through the use of foreign substances induced into the body, cause themselves to eventually produce a state of constant demented. See?
Could you please explain the sensations experienced by some individuals occasionally during meditation, that of vibration and or a blinding light?
The light is the light. It is often said, would ye see the light? Understand that thy physical body, in essence, if you look at it properly, is light. But understand also that if you would look at a rock, this is light. Understand also that this light is more clearly seen when that of the spiritual body separates from that of the physical body. Now this occurs quite naturally every night for every person who enters a state of natural sleep and begins that of the dream. For there is the separation of the spiritual body from that of the physical body, and the spiritual body would traverse to many spheres, but it always traverses unerringly to those places, to those aspects of mind where the solution to its problem is housed. Now, this information is received, and then the entity would return to that of the physical body. In that of meditation, and this is similar or getting close to that of natural sleep, but not quite in that state, then as the spiritual body begins to leave the physical body, there is a vibrating sensation for some, a pulsating sensation for others, a floating sensation, or a drifting sensation, or a rotating sensation, or combinations of these sensations. And it is simply that the entity is beginning to enter the dream state. What is entering? The consciousness is separating. The mind is seeking out other levels, for this is actually what happens in the dream state. See?
Are there any particularly beneficial physical preparations we could engage in to better attune ourselves to meditation or prior to retiring for sleep?
First of all, know ye that there are those exercises that are Eastern in nature, that of the yoga, that are most beneficial. A gentle flexing, stretching of that of the body enables the body to be laid aside more easily in that it comfortably enters a state of relaxation. For some, it would merely suffice before retiring to take that of water and pat the forehead. Others, it would be best if the whole body would be bathed in water. But this is a personal choice. For some, the wet cloth upon the forehead is sufficient. Cleansing this part of the body physically would help some to more easily dream the dream and remember the same. Also, the entity should simply repeat the affirmation before entering that of the natural state of sleep, that this night I will remember my dreams and upon awakening will record them. Now again, you must understand that that of the soul mind might be somewhat considered the lazy giant. You might have to beat it with a stick or prod it with thy toe a time or two before it really awakens and knows that what ye say is business. Then you would find thy ability to remember become sharper and sharper with each and every passing evening. And upon entering and leaving the twilight state, much will be able to and subject to recall for thee. See.
If we've been abruptly awakened, is there a best method to bring back the remembrance of dreams?
If you've been abruptly awakened, chances are the physical body will experience a slight pain in the head, a headache. This is caused from misalignment of the two bodies. Then the best way is simply to let thyself lay again in the horizontal position, rest thy head upon the pillow, relax thy body and let thy mind wander, and thy mind will usually center upon that has been so abruptly jarred from the memory. See?
Why do fears seem to materialize in dreams rather than in the conscious state?
because fears are suppressed in that of the conscious state, and in that of the natural state, what is true comes forth. Man is most usually false in the waking state, but not so in the state of natural sleep, for thy dreams will be glaringly truthful unto thee. See?
Why is it that some people never, or almost never, remember any of their dreams?
Because they choose not to. See?
Is there anything further in regards to the subject of dreams and visions that you feel would be beneficial for many to know?
Understand that there is a dream that can be carried on, and it most usually does carry on, whether there is awareness or not, of communication between that of dimensions. Dream thy dreams and see thy visions, for this is the safest way for each to advance their soul. Thy dreams will be a blessing unto thee, if ye but let them. See, we are finished. Please awaken the physical form.
Thank you. Please remove all negative influences from this entity now.
Done.
Allow the body to become completely relaxed.
It is.
Allow any further healing which may take place to take place now.
We thank thee all.
Please awaken now, feeling completely refreshed and relaxed.